Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dave, and we are the IB English guys. And today we are going to kick off the countdown to paper one, and we love this.
Yeah, folks, we're going to present 10 text types over the next 2 months prior to the exam. Each text type will get 2 videos. Mr. Giles, how can students use these videos?
Yeah, so the first video, we're going to break down the text and talk about the features of the text. Then we're going to read aloud the text and talk about, make meaning of it, and look at the guiding question, come up with a rudimentary outline.
Yeah, and then after that, we highly encourage you to try to write the paper, and then come back and watch the second video, and you'll have a chance to compare your response to ours and see how you did.
These are not old IB exams. These are all texts that we've curated. We think they're great texts, and we think you'll really learn a lot by going through this process. The first text type that we're going to talk about is a letter. We like letters. Why do we like letters, Andrew?
Mr. Giles, I love letters. They appear very frequently on IB exams, and they're popular because of the multiple audiences. Of course, the letter writer is writing to someone, but we often read these letters later in history, later down the road, and we learn a little bit about history by looking at these. They're a window to another context and another time period.
That's right. A beautiful letter, a well-written letter is something really to admire and to think about. So let's talk about the conventions and the features of a letter. First of all, we see, of course, many times we see a name, address, and date. To begin the letter, and then we have a salutation. Pay attention to the salutation. Does it say, "Dear John"? Does it say, "To whom it may concern"? Is it formal? Is it cordial? This will help us sort of think about the purpose of the letter.
Yeah, and then when you get into the beginning of the letter, look in that first paragraph for some sort of statement of purpose. Typically, Mr. Giles, the letter writer will explicitly say why they're writing the letter. And also pay attention to the register. Is the letter informal? Is it formal? Pay attention to the language and the degree of formality in the writing.
That's right. And so we want to look at paragraphing and the structure of it. And at the end of the letter, we want to think about a call to action, some kind of request or something that the author wants, and then that closing in the letter. So those are just a few of the features that we see in letters. What do you say we kick off and read this letter aloud? We love this letter.
Folks, if you look down, you can go ahead and open up the document and read along with us, or you can follow along on the screen. But this is a great letter. This will take a couple minutes to read, so stay with us. You can't do any thinking until you've done some reading. Giles, start us off.
Okay, London, Christmas, 1915. Sir, for your first Christmas, I have the honor to send you my most affectionate greetings. And in wishing you all good health, I take the liberty humbly to indicate some of the favors of our fortune that I am pleased to think and enjoy in common with you.
First, I hear with pleasure that you are quite well content with yourself, not because of a reasoned conviction of your own worth, which would be mere vanity and unworthy of you, but by reason of a philosophical disposition. It is too early for you to bother over problems of self-improvement. As for me, it is too late. Wherefore we are alike in the calm of our self-content. What others may think or say about us is a subject of the smallest concern to us. Therefore, they generally speak well of us, for there is little satisfaction in speaking ill of men who care nothing for your opinion of them. Then, too, we are content to be where we happen to be, a fact that we did not order in the beginning and need not now concern ourselves about. Consider the eternal coming and going of folk. On every road, many are traveling one way, and an equal number are traveling the other way. It is obvious that, if they were all content to remain at the places whence they set forth, the distribution of the population would be the same. Why, therefore, move hither and yon at the cost of much time and labor and money, since nothing is accomplished thereby? We spare ourselves by being content to remain where we are. We thereby have more time for reflection, nor can we help observing with a smile that all persons who have good reason to see themselves make the necessary journey after they discover that we remain fixed.
Again, people about us are continually doing this service and that for some other people, running errands, mending fences, bearing messages, building and tearing down. And they all demand equal service in return. Thus, a large part of mankind keeps itself in constant motion, like bubbles of water racing around a pool at the foot of a waterfall, or like rabbits hurrying into their warrens and immediately hurrying out again. Whereas, while these antics amuse and sadden us, we, for the most part, remain where we are. Hence, our wants are few. They are generally most courteously supplied without our asking. Or, if we happen to be momentarily forgotten, we can quickly secure anything in the neighborhood by a little judicious squalling. Why then should we whirl as bubbles or scurry as rabbits? Our conquering self-possession gives us a masterful charm to life that the victims of perpetual locomotion never seem to attain.
You have discovered, and my experience confirms yours, that a perpetual self-consciousness brings most of the misery of the world. Men see others who are richer than they, or more famous, or more fortunate, so they think, and they become envious. You have not reached the period of such empty vanity, and I have long passed it. Let us therefore make our mutual vows not to be disturbed by the good luck or the good graces of others, but to continue instead to contemplate the contented cat on the rug and the unenvious sky that hangs over all alike.
This mood will continue to keep our lives simple. Consider our diet. Could anything be simpler or better? We are not even tempted by the poisonous victuals wherewith mankind destroys itself. The very first sound law of life is to look to the belly, for it is what goes into a man that ruins him. By avoiding murderous food, we may hope to become centenarians. And why not? The golden streets will not be torn up, and we need be in no indecent haste to travel even on them. The satisfactions of this life are just beginning for us, and we shall be wise to endure this world for as long a period as possible.
And sleep is good, long sleep and often. And your age and mine permit us to indulge in it without the sneers of the lark or the cock or the dawn. I pray you, sir, therefore, accept my homage as the philosopher that you are, and my assurance of that high esteem indicated by my faithful imitation of your virtues. I am, with the most distinguished consideration, with the sincerest esteem, and with the most affectionate good wishes, sir, your proud, humble, obedient granddaddy. All right, Mr. Giles, that's a really, really rich letter. There's some good humor, some good sarcasm. It gives us a window into 1915. What do you say that was our first draft? Why don't we do a second draft now and go through the letter and talk about some of the big ideas? Of course, when we annotate, we put those in the left-hand margin.
Yeah, we love that. Okay, so let's talk about the beginning of the letter. Again, we see that salutation. We see that, again, this formality of voice with the word sir and all in caps. And again, it's quite ironic because he is writing a letter to his grandson at the beginning.
Yeah, you also might want to take note that it is Christmas time. You want to pay attention to time and the place as well. I think that's important in London.
That's right. Okay? So we see the purpose of the letter. We see that in the first paragraph, that the purpose of the letter is to discuss all the different commonalities that he has with his grandson. This is, again, very important to pay attention to.
It's funny because he's talking about this philosophical disposition. Of course, an infant cannot have a philosophical disposition, but it is quite funny to draw that similarity between the elder statesman and the infant. I like that.
Yeah.
What do we see as we go on, Mr. Jones?
Yeah, so this first, this sort of second big body paragraph is really talking about exactly that, this sort of disposition, this idea of contentment, the contentment that this man feels as an elderly man, this with his place in life, and again the contentment of the tiny baby. Yeah, and I think that's really interesting. That sort of philosophical sort of mindset that an old man would have.
And we actually see the phrase, Mr. Giles, we are alike in this paragraph, and I really think that is the full purpose of this paragraph, is to show the similarities between the two. Why don't we move down to the next paragraph and see if we can sort of detect the big idea or the message behind that. What do you say, the paragraph that starts with again? What would you say is sort of the big idea in this paragraph?
I think it's talking about the sort of perpetual motion, the perpetual sort of like pursuit of wanting more and scurrying around and never stopping.
Yeah, and I think the sort of the solution to this, Mr. Giles, is that we should strive for simplicity, this idea that simplicity does prevail over these materialistic wants. And I think we see that as the paragraph goes through and gives some examples.
That's right. And then the next body paragraph where he says, you have discovered, this paragraph again is talking about this idea of self-consciousness is really the cause of a lot of the misery in the world, this sort of pursuit of the self, this preoccupation with the self in comparison to others.
Yeah, I love that. And then as we go to the next body paragraph, talking about sort of the consequences of that, and basically, Mr. Giles, we're saying humans have to be careful about what we consume. Too much consumption can be poisonous, and we see that really beautifully described here in the letter before we get to the close.
Yeah, that's great. And again, talking about the importance of sleep, the importance of that, and then
which is funny because babies sleep. This baby's not thinking; it's just sleeping, Mr.
Sleeping
Giles.
And eating. Yeah. And again, this sort of final closing, calling him a philosopher that you are. Again, this is quite humorous. And then all of the things that he's listing, that his love and affection that he has, and then ending the closing with the granddaddy. That's
Yeah,
quite
it's
humorous.
funny. We understand that he's writing to a baby, but obviously he's writing to other adult readers as well.
Absolutely.
That's
I
context.
think, again, he's obviously not writing to the baby that's going to be reading the letter, but this is, again, a statement of human beings and how they are behaving and how they are really absorbed with themselves and never stopping. And it's kind of a reminder of how we should be living our lives.
I like it. It kind of reminds me of Henry David Thoreau, the way he talks about
Yeah.
it. All right, Mr. Giles. Now that we've gone over this paper, what do you think is the next step for our viewers out there?
I think the next step is to step back and think about the guiding question that you're being asked to answer, which is, again, how the writer is trying to evoke an emotional response in the reader using language. So we want to think about that. Then again, we want to think about, okay, what are some different aspects that are evoking that emotional response? And then aim towards writing a strong thesis and creating a rudimentary outline for your paper one response.
Once you've done that, then come back and watch the second video where two examiners, we will go over the response that we've got, and you can compare it to yours and see how you did. That's how you can use this 10 video or this 10 text type playlist, and we think this will help you be successful on paper one. So folks, in closing, we hope that you enjoyed this video. We hope you understand the importance of letters, and we hope you're ready to write. Come on back and see our writing, compare it to yours, and we'll see how you did. See you soon, folks.
See you guys.